I want to start by thanking all of you in the audience. Teachers like you and like those in the ESL program in Denison High School have made it possible for people like me to be successful in this ever-changing, developing, dynamic, and ever more diverse world we call our home. The instruction of knowledge done by all of you has opened doors for many students like myself, and I'm incredibly privileged, humble, honored to be addressing all of you this afternoon. Like any speech teacher will tell you, I should give you a preview of what I'm going to say. So today, I will tell you the story of how my family got to the United States, and then I will tell you the story of how I made it through high school. I'm at heart a storyteller, so I will try to tell you my journey and my family's journey as a story with all its characters and emotions. It all starts one sunny and warm afternoon in El Salvador. My sister and I were playing a game inside of our house when the phone rang. Just as we did every time the phone rang, my sister ran to the phone, and my sister and I ran to the phone, competing to see who would be the one who got there first to answer it. It was a landline that rang exactly 4 times, so we knew we had to make it to the phone before the last ring. It was not a fair race this time. I was the one hiding at the end of the house in the room I was scared to go into at night because I was sure a bat and his family of evil little bats lived there. So when the phone rang, my sister had a straight shot to the phone, and she went for it. On the other side of the phone, my grandmother, my dad's mother, was asking for my dad. She said she had good news for us and that she was going to call later to talk to Dad. That call arrived on September of 2008, only a few days after my mom's birthday. Grandma called late that night and said that it was time for my family, my mom, my sister, my dad, and I, to join her in the United States with the rest of my dad's side of the family. It had been many years since my dad's mother left El Salvador. The little Central American country was radically different than the one she had left. My grandmother, her name was Emma, and I will refer to her as Emma from now on, left El Salvador when the Civil War was just getting started. She left right on time. That war was one of the deadliest wars in Latin American history, costing more than 20,000 Salvadorians' lives and creating an economic downturn that still has its effects to this day. Emma lived in a poor community 20 minutes away from the capital, where the Revolutionary Party made its home, hidden in the mountains, protected by the forest and the everlasting fog. Emma was a single mother of 7. She was trying to survive in miserable conditions. She worked as a seamstress, fixing people's pants and dresses, and sometimes making her own clothing to sell. She used the leftover pieces of fabric to make clothing for her children. The father of her children was never present. The story around the family says that he arrived once a year to see Emma. He would stay with her for about a week, eat her food, spend her money, waste her little resources, and then he would leave her with no money, a big debt with the corner store lady, and a child in her belly. He did this to her 9 times, and she felt for it every time. She only had 7 children alive by the time she left El Salvador because one of them died at birth and the other one got so sick and she had no money for medicine. Every time he left, the only thing Emma would have to remember him by was the children she had running around the house and the one she was expecting to arrive 9 months later. Emma also had a photograph of this man. He looked mad in the picture, according to my dad, and he wore a guayabera and slacks in the picture when the picture was taken. Emma would keep this picture wrapped inside of a plastic bag to make sure it did not get wet. She liked looking at the picture. It made her feel not so alone and miserable. It gave her hope that one day he would come to stay. Emma thought he looked so handsome in the picture, and he always smelled really good, she tells me now. As she tells me about this part of her life, sitting in a comfortable chair in an Italian restaurant in Los Angeles, she does not understand how she fell for it so many times. She does not know how she kept getting pregnant. She calls herself stupid, but she does not say she regrets it. I would not have you all if it did not happen, she says. This man never helped Emma. She did it all on her own. He never cared enough to get to know his children, and my father recalls only 3 times seeing his dad. And one of those times was when this man was dead, and my dad was in charge of changing him and putting him inside of the coffin. This was the life Emma was escaping, a life of poverty, political and social instability, a life where she feared for her life and for her children's, not only to be killed during the war, but to die of starvation and because she couldn't afford medicine. So in 1981, only a year after the war had officially started, after only 4 years after giving birth to her youngest child, Emma sold most of her things she had. She sold her most loved possession, her sewing machine, and sent her 7 kids to live with different family members, and she headed north. She made it to Guatemala and lived in Guatemala for a couple of months to make a little bit of money. She worked in a house as a nanny, and the children she took care of reminded her of her own children, the ones she had left in El Salvador. After she had made a little bit of money by saving most of her little salary, she continued to Mexico. She lived in Mexico for almost a year. She loved it there, but the money was not enough. And by 1982, she got in a bus that took her to the border between Mexico and California. She says she spent a little bit of her money on fancy fabric, and she made herself what she calls a rich, old, white lady outfit. And she bought herself a new pair of shoes. She got in the bus, feeling the fantasy of being the character she had created with her new outfit. Too proud to be asked for papers, she says. Too preoccupied with the need to feed her children to worry about immigration officers. And just like that, she crossed the border without being bothered. Her light skin and light brown hair surely helped her. She made it to a sanctuary city in California and waited until she could fix her immigration status. When the amnesty of the 1980s came, she was ready to legalize her presence in this country. She did it, and she started saving all the money she could, working as a maid, to get all her children to come and join her in the States. She was sure she could give them a better life here. Her single children came first, and she was very proud to be able to buy them a plane ticket to get them to join her in California. Her older children, the ones already married with their own families, had to wait longer, a lot longer. My family was not able to arrive legally to this country until 2009. It was May 25th of 2009 when my family arrived. We came to Iowa after my parents tried their luck in California and Arizona. We settled in Denison, Iowa. My father had a job in a packing plant where he made $8.50 per hour, and my sister and I enrolled in Denison High School. I was placed as a sophomore, and so was my sister, even though she was 2 years older than me. Now looking back, that was 7 years ago. At the beginning of the 2009-2010 academic year, I would have never thought me standing here talking to you and telling you about my journey was even possible. At that point, it was certainly not possible for me to fluently address all of you in English. I could have walked to any of your classrooms and not know a word you were saying, besides the greetings at the beginning of your class. I had no idea about the education system or about the things I needed to do to make it to an institution of higher learning. My parents did not know it either. They too were trying to figure out life in a new place. It was August of 2009 when I walked into Denison High School. I felt lost, alone, incapable, and ready to fail, ready to give up. I walked down there all brown and gay and monolingual and poor, and I was sure a perfect recipe for failure. And I'm sure many people believed so. I did too. I was there because I had to, because my family forced me to, but I was not ready to start anything, let alone finish. I was ready to be another statistic of immigrant children failing to reach their potential. My destiny looked like the one to be who never learns English and who ends up working in a packing plant. The exact thing my mom wanted me to avoid. I was afraid, unsure of what to do and where to go, and I was scared to talk to my peers, let alone try to be their friend. I used my silence as a tool to survive and to make it through, and that is all I wanted. I wanted to survive high school. The day before classes started, I told my mother to not expect much from me, and that I did not know the language and that I saw it almost impossible to be as good of a student as I was back at home. I was accustomed to competing for the first or second place in my school and in my class, and I liked school. I liked learning, and I enjoyed competing to be the best in class. However, that had changed. How could I compete when I could not understand or speak to anyone? In my mind, I had already given up. I knew I was going to school, and all I wanted was for it to be over. I did not want to be the foreign kid who knows no one and who did not fit in. But I knew my family expected me to be good. They expected me to excel. That day, before school started, when I already felt defeated and unprepared, my mother told me that all she wanted me to do was to try, and I had to try for her. I knew how hard the move to Iowa had been for my mom. My 4-person family lived in one tiny room in my aunt's house. My aunt opened her house and gave us that room for us 4 to share. The only room she had empty. We could not pay for rent at the beginning, so we paid by making sure her house was clean, and my mom made sure that she cooked dinner for her every night. When both of my parents found jobs, they helped with the rent, but we lived in that room for over a year before we could afford a place of our own. My family was accustomed to living in a big house full of tropical flowers and full of empty rooms that were only used when family came to visit. She missed that, and I did too. My mom tried to be strong. She would try not to let us see her cry after she talked to Grandma, and she tried to recreate food that we would normally eat at home. However she could, she would try to cook something for my sister and I, and she would hide it in the room so when we came back from school and they were away at work because they worked at night, we would find it, and we would have a reminder of home, a reminder of her, a reminder that we still had each other. It was these little things that motivated me to be better, to make her proud, and to make her loneliness, her coldness, and her new reality be worthwhile. And I did it the only way I knew how, by making sure she could be proud of me academically. I tried to learn as much as I could, as fast as my brain could. During ESL 1, I constantly asked questions and practiced my English as much as I could. And my teachers saw that and rewarded me with more challenging courses. And I saw that my family needed more money, and I went and found a job. I worked at Burger King my junior and senior year of high school. I would go to work right after school, and I would normally work until the place closed. And I was working about 30 to 40 hours a week because I opened the place every Saturday and Sunday at 5 a.m. I honestly enjoy my work there. I met many kind people, and I was forced to practice my English all the time. I was forced to talk to people and to listen to them. I had to explain things and make sense of what people wanted, and I learned how to not lead a staff and how to not get in trouble with the boss. After work, I would do my homework, talk to my sister, and watch TV. My parents would come back from work at 2 a.m., and a couple of times they found me up trying to read something, especially when I had to read all those novels for my junior year American Heritage class. I would always have to read things a couple of times to understand a little bit of it. I still don't think I'm quite sure what happened in Grapes of Wrath. I probably should read that again now. Math was always my favorite subject. I could do numbers easily. I did not need to know much English to understand it. Although math was my favorite subject, I could not have gone through high school without the support, guidance, and help from my ESL teachers. Teachers like Miss Gedge, Miss Mentink, and Miss Bunker challenged, guided, and trusted me. They talked to administrators and convinced them to get me into honors courses and to enroll me into dual credit classes. They supported me when I was there and trusted I could be successful in those courses. They were the teachers I needed and the people I needed in that moment in my life. The people who made a difference in every conversation, in every piece of advice they gave. The teachers I hope every immigrant child coming to make the state of Iowa their new home finds. I hope those children find those teachers who do not give up on them just because of their broken English and because they're afraid to talk in public. I hope they find those teachers who see beyond their limitations and expect greatness. teachers who want more from their students and who challenge them to go beyond their own expectations and to break the conventional understanding of what is possible for them. Teachers that welcome and embrace immigrant children by being allies to their parents and by working in the community to make it less full of hate, more inclusive, more fair, and simply better for all of us. I hope these teachers are all of you sitting in this auditorium listening to me. I hope all of you go to your classrooms and expect more from your ESL students. I hope you set the bar high for them and challenge them to break their own stereotypes and to make them better members of our community. It is my hope that schools in Iowa are creating a place where immigrant children, students of color, LGBTQIA+ students, white students, differently able students, male students, and female students alike all feel like they belong. Like the education we provide is fair for them all, and in one which we can all succeed and be better. Better for our schools, better for their families, and better for our community. I hope our schools are free of racism, xenophobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, and other types of hate. I hope that if one day I have children, I can send them to any school in Iowa and know that they will find teachers full of love, empathy, compassion, and teachers who care just as much as the ones I found in my high school. During my speech, I told you about the first day of school, the day I dreaded and the day my mother asked me to simply try. Now I want to talk to you about graduation day. It was in May of 2012. My sister and I walked into the high school with our gowns folded in our arms and our caps already in our heads. I was wearing a medal I got from the National Honor Society, and during the ceremony, my name was called for being part of the top 10 of my graduating class. As I went up to get my medal, I kept looking to make eye contact with my mother. When I found her in the crowd, sitting in the bleachers in the crowded gym, her face was adorned with a big smile. She had worn her best outfit, the best outfit she had, and she had saved some money for us to go out to eat after the ceremony. When the ceremony ended, my sister and I went to find my parents. My mother ran to us and hugged me, and she said that this was the first of several graduation ceremonies she expected to attend. That day, I walked away from that high school feeling proud of what I had done and feeling sad to leave the many people who had shaped my life to that moment. I hope I was not the only one who felt that way that day, and I hope many more feel that way in the future. This past May, my mother sat in another graduation ceremony. This time, I was graduating with my bachelor's degree from the University of Northern Iowa. Attending school and now heading to get a master's degree was all possible thanks to all the countless hours my teachers spent getting lessons ready and preparing class. I was one of the lucky ones. Many of my peers, including my sister, never made it to college. They will never have the opportunity to come and talk to you. They are working long hours in packing plans, waiting for the next paycheck, hoping it's enough to feed their children and pay the bills. This speech is for them, for those who the system failed, those who we forgot about, the ones that did not find those teachers who could make the difference, those who got lost in stereotypes and who we chose to ignore. It is my hope that bringing up those who the system failed can help it from happening again. I hope that in years to come, there are so many success stories to tell, this conference is going to struggle to only choose one. I hope one day this room is full of people who, like me, came to the United States, figured out the system, and are now teaching those kids of the future. Teachers the students can relate to, and teachers that can serve as role models. I want to end my story with one of the things that one of my professors told me when I talked to him about making a difference in people's lives and future. The story goes a little bit like this. One morning, an elderly man was walking nearly a deserted island. He came upon a boy surrounded by thousands and thousands of starfish. As eagerly as he could, the youngster was picking them up and throwing them into the ocean. Puzzled, the old man looked at the young boy and asked, "Little boy, what are you doing?" The young responded, "Look, without looking up. I'm trying to save the starfish," he responded. The old man chuckled aloud and said, "Son, there are thousands of starfish and only one of you. What difference can you make?" Holding a starfish in his hand, the boy turned to the man and gently tossing the starfish into the water said, "It will make a difference to that one." Little actions make big difference. Conversations like the ones I had with Miss Kenzie as we sat in her geometry classroom after school, the day she showed me the UNI website and told me that I needed to apply, the day she said there are more options than just community colleges, the day that made a difference in my life and in my future. All the little actions are meaningful, and I also think we need to work to make the system work, not for only the people like me who are able to learn fast and who have access to services such as financial aid. We need to fix the system and make it work for everyone. The same UNI professor I told you about tells me a second part to the story. The kid's grown up now. He's reading a book beside a gently gurgling river. Suddenly, a drowning baby floats by. True to his nature, the Samaritan jumps in and saves the child. Pretty soon, another drowning baby floats past. He saves that one too, and the next, and the next, and the next. A few hours later, his chest heaving, his arms exhausted, and the cold dread settles over the man, he realizes the inevitable. There will come a time when I'm too tired to save one more drowning child. That's the point at which he looks upstream and sees someone throwing the babies in. There are moments like that tell you everything about a person. What the man does next makes all the difference. Does he decide that his efforts are worthless and he walks away? Does he attempt to reason with the baby thrower and explain that why tossing babies in the river is, all things considered, not a good thing to do? Or does he attack the villain, maybe even push him into the river? What would a man do? What would you do? Times like this, when we identify a problem and see how we can change it systematically, are the times that make the most difference. I hope we're all both the ones who save children from drowning and the ones that talk up to power to stop it from happening again. For now, I hope that all of us in this room are committed to making our schools more inclusive and better at serving all of our students. For now, all I can say is thank you. Thank you for being here and for wanting to be better for your students. I can't end without saying thank you to my teachers. I want to say thank you to the teachers that helped me. Miss Mentink for her constant, tough, and unconditional love for her students and for her job. Thank you for teaching me the English I know. To Miss Getch, thank you for her constant smile, enthusiasm, creativity, and confidence. I could not have done it without her. To Miss Kenzie for caring enough to sit down with me and tell me that I need to go to a 4-year institution. You have changed me. And many other instructors, counselors, mentors, classmates, and friends who made me who I am. Thank you to my family, who just as many immigrant families left everything they knew to give my sister and I a chance to a better life. Thank you to all of you for sitting in this auditorium as I bore you with my stories, and I hope all of you set high expectations for your ESL students. I hope you challenge them to be better. And I want to say thank you from all of the children that you have helped. Those who have said thank you before and those who haven't. Thank you for choosing an often thankless profession. Thank you for all you do every day. You're all an inspiration.